mysterious death curse washes over the land, driven by a powerful artifact known as the Soulmonger. 4 would-be heroes have been sent to the jungles of Chult to destroy the cause of this terrible affliction. Vale, the half-elven paladin who's just now learning of his divinely granted powers. Ubo, the total monk from a distant land who's as quick with his wit as he is with his staff. Brilinya, Aasimar warlock sent on this quest by her temple, discovering herself in this strange new land. And gunslinger Cole, tiefling artificer and archaeologist who may just dig up more than she bargained for. This motley band of adventurers must work together to brave the poisonous plants, venomous monsters, thundering dinosaurs, and rotting undead of the jungle. Join the omnipotent dungeon master Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain to see if our heroes can find the Soulmonger, uncover the deeper mysteries of Chult, and free the world from the death curse. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Chult of Personality.
Hey internets, it's Jake, and this is MTD&D's Chult of Personality, a Tomb of Annihilation Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign happening every Monday night at 8:30 Eastern right here on twitch.tv/Mini-Terrain Domain. And I will never get tired of watching that awesome intro prepared for us by the one and only Locrius. That's the moment that motorcycle gang decides to drive by my house. I was trying to mask it, but there's a lot more motorcycles than I expected. Anachronistic to our game here. Welcome to episode 14, What Lurks in the Jungle. I am joined by my amazing players, each of them fantastic DMs who I've had the privilege of playing under, and have played numerous games with each of these folks. Playing Vale Istafall, the half-elf paladin, it's Mike the Piper. Playing Gunslinger Cole, the tiefling artificer, it's the stereotypical Marquise. Playing Brilinya, the Aasimar warlock, it is Megan. And playing our turtle monk, Ubo, it is Drake. With that look, if Drake's going to keep giving that look, I'm just going to start introducing him as, it's Drake. Instead of giving him the Drake.
I wasn't really sure what the appropriate thing was to Drake. I wasn't prepared for that. I need to be prepped for that, DM, please.
So, we are, of course, playing Tomb of Annihilation. They have been all over the northern tip of Chult in Port Nyanzaru and Beluarian. They have faced giant scorpions and jaculi, which are vine-like camouflaging snakes. They have faced giant alligators. They have raced dinosaurs. They have faced giants, undead zombies and zombie garrulons, which are 4-armed giant gorillas, and numerous other things in the jungles. They are finally heading upriver through the jungle toward the Eldani Basin, ultimately looking for the source of the death curse, with a couple stopping points along the way. In our last session, after recovering from the brief imprisonment by Queothe, the seemingly now evil merchant prince, and self-appointed overseer of Executioner's Run, they had some respite, some revelations. They took some time to regroup, do some odd jobs around town, get to know the locals. Cole uncovered a lot about a potential future location that they are heading, the lost city of Mesro. Brilinya and Vale did some work for the local temple where Vale observed some peculiar activity, and Brilinya also saw that. Saw some members of her organization the Weeping Friars. And Ubo worked on the docks, hauling ships and monitoring the ankylosaurs, and when one went rogue, he tackled it into the channel and was awarded with some spikes and clubs from an ankylosaur, which are now bony, spiky fisticuffs that he wears. Along with their trusty guide, Salida, they are heading up the river Schoschenstar, showing on our map here to the side. They have traveled 3 days in. They almost got rolled by a giant alligator I keep saying giant alligator. It wasn't a giant alligator. It was a giant snake that Vale made quick work of with the assistance of their companions. They uncovered a cache of much-needed healing potions and set up camp for the night. And now, as they prepare to travel several days upriver, we are going to do a sort of narrative montage where we're going to visit each of our characters and have them sort of encapsulate what that day's activities are. So on the next day, when you wake up and you break camp, you refresh your water, you load up your folding boat that was gifted to you by Wakange Otamu, and you begin your journey of trying to get as far as you can, and you're looking at averaging about 20 miles a day on the river. Ubo, we switch to your perspective. Would Ubo spend more time staring into the water, staring into the jungle, or staring into the sky?
I think he'd probably be staring into the jungle. He would certainly be looking down at times and looking up at times, but I think he would kind of be in the front of the boat, kind of looking, looking to where they're going. Not really with his head up in the clouds and not really kind of down as he's been a lot, but just kind of very level and very calm. Maybe having some conversations with his comrades as he's passing, but more surface level, not really getting into anything, realizing that thus far he has rocked the boat quite a bit and he's trying to make his way back into their good graces.
Give me a perception check with advantage.
Okay. Sorry. With advantage, that'll be a 15.
About midway through the day on this first day, you start to see movement on the kind of the southern edge of the river. At first, it just seems like shadows moving through the tall grasses and the brush. And then you catch movement a little higher up in the trees. And you realize that this movement seems to be making pace with you. And as you're watching this, would Ubo say something to the party, or would you wait until you could get a better look at what you're seeing?
I would imagine that Cole is probably off on the bow, probably relatively close, kind of doing her own thing. And I would expect that Brill and Vale are probably a little bit behind this day. I might make a noise or a kind of a gesture to Cole, just kind of saying, hey, look, like over there, just kind of gesturing, but not really noticeably. If Cole wasn't looking at me, she wouldn't see it, but just kind of focusing on those areas and just seeing if there's anything that I could make out from it. If I saw anything, I would say it.
And so what you would actually see right about the time you're thinking about kind of pointing to Cole is you realize that there are about half a dozen dark hulking shapes swinging from tree branch to tree branch. And you realize that what you see are apes moving through the trees. About 6 of them.
And I would look over at Cole and I would say, what are these things? These things in the trees. Are these things monkeys? What?
You've never seen an ape before, Hubo.
Is that in your book? No, where I come from, we don't have what's an ape.
Fine. Imagine a monkey, bigger, stronger, not necessarily meaner, more social in some ways. A fair bit more intelligent. Not as intelligent as maybe you or I, but intelligent enough to throw a rock at you and to get a banana in return.
So why are they following us? And then with that, I would point over to the trees.
She looks up and she sees them swinging from tree to tree. She follows them with her eyes for a second, counting the apes, so the ones that she can count. And she shrugs her shoulders and says, maybe they're interested. Salida, what do you think?
These are pretty much your usual apes, gorillas. They are more likely than not curious more than anything else. I would not be too concerned, though. As she's saying this, she's kind of like, I wouldn't worry too much about them. They're probably just trying to see what we are and what we're up to.
Straight from the horse's mouth, Ubo.
Does your book say anything about them?
This? No. And she already had it out. She's been flipping through pages almost absentmindedly, memorizing things before you talk to her. And she's flipping through it like so you can see the actual pages. And she says, "Wanty, hags, beholders. Nothing about mundane apes in here, love."
So, okay, if they're not a problem. And he would look to Salida and he would say, will they stay with us the whole way?
I doubt that they will keep their interest up beyond the edge of their territory, as long as they are not in the presence of a Garalon. And she's still kind of looking, and she goes, I don't see any signs of one. They will probably give up. It is after maybe a mile or two.
Cole, when she says Garalong, he would look at you like with this kind of inquisitive, what the hell is that?
Remember that zombie that we fought back in the fort? 4 arms, giant monkey looking thing? That, but less dead.
Ubo would just kind of giggle and just kind of laugh and go, okay.
And so the day progresses with little more than the gorillas who stay with you for about another hour before they start to break off. And you, throughout the day, you encounter a few other animals that do similar, that kind of pace you for a little bit, that seem more curious than anything else. And that's the extent of the excitement for your day. It does about midday. The temperature's the typical hot, by mid-morning it's 95 and humid. There's no rain today, but about midday the wind picks up pretty strongly. But it actually seems to be blowing at your back, which kind of gives you a little bit of assistance as you're moving upriver.
As the day goes on, Brill, would you come out to the front? Would you stay in the back? What do you think you'd be doing?
I don't know that seeing that Brill isn't the most strongest person ever, she would probably be like moving about, trying to help in other ways, like being a lookout or something like that. So
Jake, if you'll allow it, probably the second or third time she came out towards me, towards the bow, As you came within a few feet, Megan, Ubo would just kind of put his hand on your shoulder. He would say, "You doing okay?"
And she just kind of look at you and just kind of smirk and just, yeah, I'm fine.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. This was yours. I don't really have a use for it. And he would unwind that long red ribbon that he had, probably, like you said, 5 or 6 feet, and he would just kind of bunch it up in his hand. It's probably 3 times the size of your hand, but he would just kind of hand it over, just as, and with kind of a smile on his face, not knowing anything bad. He would just like he was very proud of himself that he kept it for you.
And I don't know if Ubo would notice this, but there's almost like an involuntary flinch when Brilinya sees those ribbons.
I rolled a 2, so I would not notice.
Okay.
I would just go here.
But she does take them and just doesn't meet your eyes or anything like that, but just thank you. It means a lot that you kept them.
You're welcome. If there's anything else I can do, or I know you're much stronger than I thought, but I'm still here to help if I can. And in any way, he would be stumbling over his words. Ubo wouldn't have the words to say. He's not eloquent at all. He isn't like Cole, and he would just, should you need me, just kind of nodding.
She just like kind of put a hand on Ubo's shoulder and up, and just thank you. I know I gotta get back to rowing, but thanks.
Okay. He would just and just turn
and the evening and the night and the camping ends the first night, or this night, I should say, which is technically like your 7th night since arriving. And then the next day, we're going to shoot over to Gunslinger Cole.
That's me.
What's Cole thinking about, and where is she focusing her attention during this day?
When she was studying the Meso documents, she found 2 names, and those names were Wanti, which she recognized from Volo's guide, and Rosny, which was brought up a lot in relation to the Wanti. She didn't get a chance to follow up on that second name, but that first name, she has a whole book right here about it. And so she's been memorizing the passages and thinking a little bit more on why the Wanti seem to be so involved with the idea of Mesro when she could find no direct connection. She's been making theories, essentially, about it, and just memorizing what she can from the book itself.
Give me a perception check at disadvantage.
Natural 1, so +1 is going to be a 2.
Okay.
Here we go, boys.
I want everybody else to give me a perception check. Because I see this is another hot day. There's very little wind, but the rain is falling heavily. So I can almost see Cole kind of huddled under her jacket, reading.
She's taking out some kind of cover to make sure the pages don't get wet.
Right. And Ubo, I think, would be the first to hear this. Vale, what's your perception check.
14 for me.
Yeah, Ubo, I think you'd be the one to notice this. From the trees, as this part of the river, you're kind of going around this arc in the river where it's kind of curving hard to the west and then back south. You kind of hedge towards the northern bank, and that's when you hear from in the trees just this
And with that, I would say, like, I would look directly at Cole, and I would say, more apes.
Cole looks up and she closes the book when you ask that, and she looks to the trees. Does she hear the sound now, Jake?
Not only do you hear the sound, you can see what the source of it is. It is... There's about 14 eyes that seem to kind of glint a little. 7 sets of teeth. And I would like you to make a nature check to see if you know what these are. As I forgot to queue up this image, I'm just going to hold the book in front of the camera.
That's going to be a 22. Ooh, cute.
You know what these are. These are called Zorbos.
Mm-hmm.
They're very much like koalas that live in certain tropical areas, but they have just long, vicious claws. They are just, they'll eat anything, including adventurers, if provoked. Right now, their fur, this wet mottled kind of golden brown, but they have along their bellies and their arms, they have this almost like natural armor that seems to be matching the bark of the trees. There's 7 of these things just staring at you as you pass.
Do I know if these are these like beasts, or are these like more monstrous things?
They are not natural beasts. They are monstrosities.
Okay. She reaches a hand into her pocket, and she has one finger up for everyone to be silent. And then she puts that finger to her throat as she draws out the thunder cannon, and she clicks back the hammer. And then she fires off a bullet into the water. And as she does so, she uses her tiefling blood to cast thaumaturgy, and she screams at these things, trying to use a combination of the loudness of the thunder cannon and now her thunderous voice to kind of scare them off.
Very cool. Make a intimidation check at advantage.
So, okay. All right, that's going to be a 19 total.
As soon as this happens, their attention actually turns away from you to where that splash was. And they begin screeching and howling almost like howler monkeys. And they dart quickly, more quickly than you would have imagined they could move. They seem to almost meld backwards into the shadows, leaving only the rustling of branches and leaves behind as they disappear.
Bunch of little assholes, those, Cole would say. She pulls out a bullet and starts reloading the thunder cannon. But I think they're gone for now, Isolita.
That was a very clever way you got rid of them. You have to be careful around them. Some in the jungle call them drop bears. You must watch out for them. They will, if they can catch you unaware, they will swarm you and just start gnawing at you with their little teeth and their claws and start ripping you apart.
You think that packs get bigger than 7? Like there could be another pack close by? Or we think we're in the clear for now?
We are in the jungles of Chult, going deeper and deeper. We are not going to be in the clear for many, many weeks.
Fair.
But you now know one more of the hazards the jungle has to offer.
And when she says that, Cole slides the thunder cannon back into the pocket of her duster, and she looks to Ubo and she nods and she says, "Good ear. Appreciate it." And then she returns back to her reading.
I was going to say, and I just imagine she just pulls that jacket back up over her head and pulls the book out and continues right back to what she was doing. And that's much of this second day of journeying. Another long day of rowing, switching out rowing, traveling upriver toward the Eldani Basin. And the evening and the night in the camp makes another day past. And this day, we're going to focus on Brilinya. Brilinya, how have you been spending your days on the river besides rowing when it is your turn?
Berlinya's eyes are constantly on the forest, in the trees, mostly along the ground and the shoreline, trying to see any hint of any person. Seeing Brother Mateus in Port Nyanzaru has really put her on edge. And she is just kind of looking out for that and just has this like really, really kind of more nervous energy about her.
Give me a perception check at advantage.
18.
Versus. Oh, so as you're traveling through on this day, which is a very warm, typical hot day, no rain, light wind. The light wind seems to cut the humidity down a little bit. You're just watching, listening to the sounds of the jungle around you, the sounds of the oars in the water, the labored breathing of whoever's paddling, the buzzing of flies and what have you. And you just kind of, I picture it almost like that scene in a movie where the camera is kind of looking up at the trees and then kind of rotates as you move through. And you see the places where the different kinds of trees with their hanging mosses and the vines that hang down. And you're staring at, it's almost like you just kind of get lost in the patterns of the jungle. And you're seeing the vines. And you almost move your eyes to the next pattern. And something seems off about the vines. And you realize their coloring doesn't quite match. You almost didn't see it. And you realize it's jaculi, like you've seen before. The camouflage spring snakes that hide in the trees, waiting to ambush.
Bro hasn't seen those, but we have.
Oh, you know what? You're right. She hasn't seen them before. So you... thank you for the correction. I forgot she wasn't there. So,
oh, wow. Look at those different colored vines.
So you just notice something seems off. And here's what you notice. As you're watching the patterns in this almost hypnotic way in which even the vines that kind of hang in like a bow, they seem to kind of sway lightly in this breeze. But there's about a half a dozen of these vines hanging straight down that aren't swaying in the breeze. They're slightly different colored. Would you say anything to anybody? Is this enough that you would remark on it? Or would you just kind of notice like, that's weird?
I think I'd point it out maybe to the closest person to me, maybe Vale. Nothing, like I wouldn't be alarmed or anything like that. Maybe just like a note of, oh, those vines they're kind of interesting colors, aren't they? I wonder how they got that way. And just kind of like pondering.
Vale, roll me a perception check with advantage.
That's a 13.
Vale, it's like when you're trying to point out a star in the sky you're trying to point out 6 vines in a jungle full of vines, and you're like, no, here. And he's like looking over this way, looking around. He's like, I don't see what you're talking about. So you get ambushed. These vines spring down into the boat. And you quickly find yourselves, the 3 of you know what you're facing. Megan, I'm going to have you guys make a couple rolls, but I want you to describe, after this roll, I want you to describe what happens. So I want you to make a D20 roll. Okay. And add your spellcasting modifier to it.
So that is a 7. It's 12.
Describe what happens when you guys fight these 6 Jakuli. And the Jakuli get the better of the 4 of you. And all 4 of you get wounded from these Jakuli. You're not killed by them, but you are all wounded pretty seriously. Describe the scene. The Jakuli are 15-foot snakes that look like vines and spring out.
Yeah, so I imagine they kind of all drop down onto the boat, and at first they don't move. And I think they're closest to Brilinya, and she just kind of almost turns to say, "Hey, Cole, look," when like they just kind of spring up in all these different directions, kind of each of the people in the boat as their targets, and they just begin to like coil themselves around and just try and bite and snap at each person. I can imagine there's a lot of expletives from Cole.
A tremendous amount of expletives from Cole. She's pissed.
She's probably really pissed that no one saw this, but Ubo saw the monkeys, but nobody saw these. But so do we eventually? So they're kind of overtaking us, and they're very quick, and it's hard when you're in such a small, confined space to move around and to maneuver without falling overboard. And at the same time, you have this like noodle with fangs, like just trying to eat you. Like, so it's very difficult for everyone. And I imagine like the boat is just rocking back and forth.
And I kind of picture this almost like you see like one of these Zorbos or one of the apes from a distant tree a couple miles away sees birds go flying up from where the river is. You hear the distant sounds of commotion, some bright flashes as spells go off. More birds scatter as there's a tremendous thunder from Cole's thunder cannon. Maybe even you see what looks like a vine come flying above the tree line where Ubo has punched one literally up into the air with his new monk weapons. Who, eventually you do defeat them. Who of the 4 of you takes the most damage? So, Ubo would have taken 20 points of damage. Vale would have taken 16 points. Cole, you got 12. And Brilinya took 10. And Salida took 20. Salida and Ubo, are you still standing?
Yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm standing.
Salida. Just gotta double check this, but you guys are what, level 4?
Correct.
Mm.
So, yeah, okay, here we go. I just want to see if she's knocked unconscious or not. And she isn't. She's pretty beat up. She's got some cuts and scrapes across her, but her scimitar is bloodied. What's the aftermath of this?
I think that Brilinya would just be racing around the boat very frantically, apologizing because she saw these things and she thought that they were just, vines. But she would be just running around trying to heal everyone. So that is going to be... 10 points for Cole and 12 points for Ubo and 9 points for Vale and 14 points for Salida.
And Vale, you have healing magic as well, correct?
Yeah, I have. We'll have lay on hands.
So it sounds like you guys would have had enough with your healing magics. Would you have dipped into any of the healing potions, or would you have relied on your natural abilities?
The moment people start basically throwing out lay on hands and healing spells, Cole's going to keep these 7 potions locked up for right now, just because they don't seem needed.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of the montage, you guys basically make camp at the end of this day. Pretty wore out. These Jakuli, they did a number on you. Lots of piercing and bludgeoning damage, and you did heal some of the wounds. But everybody's going to need this long rest tonight. And
during the long rest, Cole would ask Vale if he knows how to cook.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bit of basic cooking.
Well, I'd help out a bit, but maybe we can skin and eat these bastards. And she kind of drops the bundle of Jakuli meat to the ground. Maybe a stew? You look type like stew. Like a stew boy.
I think that sounds quite good. See if I've got any dried fruits, nuts.
And I imagine Jake, that Cole and Vale would spend a good portion of the night basically stirring and cooking this stuff to eat tonight and then for breakfast in the morning.
Who's the primary cook?
Vale.
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right. I want you to roll a survival check with advantage since Cole's helping.
All right.
We're just going to see how palatable this stew is.
I got a 17.
Salida actually abstains, but she seems pretty content with her dried fruits and what have you. But she does say, she kind of sniffs at it. I'm surprised. This smells pretty good. And the rest of you, if you have no objections to eating wild tree snake, it's actually a pretty good stew. I mean, it's not like the best thing you've ever had, but for being out in the middle of the jungle and eating something that you all killed and that almost killed you, maybe some of the flavor is in the victory.
Save a day of rations, have a good stew.
Yep, and there's because of the number that you killed and their size, there is enough for you to have for breakfast the next day as well. And the evening and the night in the camp makes another day. It is now the 10th day. Salida tells you It looks pretty good. It looks like the day is going to be windless and rainless, just hot. She says we must be getting very close to within a day or two of where we will want to break off into the jungle in search of this thing that you're looking for.
Cole would ask Solita, and we don't have to like have the conversation. It's like this thing that she'd ask her to show her. It says she's asking her how to show her how to read the weather in Chult. Like it's a reoccurring thing every day, so she can start picking up this skill. Because she's proficiency in survival, so I figured why not.
Yeah. So she kind of would explain some things to you about feeling the humidity in the morning. Paying attention to what the weather was like the previous day, watching the movement of the clouds, paying attention to the behavior of insects or any observable creatures, and roll an insight.
All right. Ooh, I got a natural 20, so it's going to be a 21.
Yeah, she's totally BSing you. You can tell she's just making this up on the fly.
Cole doesn't tell Solita that she knows she's lying, but she makes a mental note of it, and she just kind of files that away.
But she does it in a way that it's almost like she's not completely masking it. It's not like she's just going like pretending like, oh yeah, this is, I've spent years perfecting this art. She just kind of, tries to see if she can BS you, and she wouldn't know that you didn't believe her, but yeah, I mean, it's not like a serious jest, but enough.
Dope.
And, you break camp, and once again, you break out the folding boat, and you're moving on down the river. The most action you see is, you notice, Vale, that it's your turn to kind of sit at the stern of the boat and work the rudder a bit. Which means just trailing an extra paddle, while the others focus on rowing. You just kind of shift it a little bit this way and that way. And as you're watching the rudder, you notice that quippers, piranha-like fish, seem to kind of be gathering en masse behind the boat. They're not jumping out of the water. They're not particularly large. They just seem to be following the boat as if they, almost like they're stalking it. Almost like you would see on a larger ship, you might see flying fish darting out ahead of a boat or dolphins riding escort. You have a escort of quippers following you. Otherwise, it's a pretty quiet day. What would you be thinking? What would you be doing? Who would you be talking to on this day?
I'd probably be looking at these damn things and being a little bit leery. Perhaps every so often I might grab like just a little bit of dried meat and I'd throw it as far back from the boat as possible. If there's any stew left, perhaps even like throw some stew like far out just to kind of get them to go away.
Cole would pipe in saying, "Stop wasting food, Vale."
Yeah, but
are you swimming? If you're not swimming, then it doesn't matter that they're here. Shit, if they're here, that means there's not giant snakes or jaculi or, I don't know, aquatic baboons or some bullshit swimming by us. So really, it's a good sign. Tomorrow, not Bashaba.
Yeah, but you don't think they're going to eat the boat, do you? I mean, they might bite through it.
I don't think they eat wood, love.
You have nothing to worry about, Vale. As long as you don't go in the water, they will leave you alone. But if they are still with us when we make landfall, we will have to be extra cautious leaving the boat.
All right, fine. So, Brill, who are those friends of yours? The ones at the temple. They seem nice. Actually, no, they seem like pretentious twats. But I mean, the quiet one seemed nice.
Is like I assume that other people like Cole and Ubo are within earshot of this. I mean, it's a boat; it's pretty small, but
Yeah, I mean the boat's only about. I think it's only about 15 feet long.
yeah. So she would just kind of her eyes would kind of widen. Um, she would not be able to veil the or hide the emotion of just panic, and she's just like I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have no one came to see me.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, they were standing outside the temple. There was three of them. Two of them what looked like you know, like blonde of hair and silver of eyes, and then one tiefling. He was in the middle. He was the one doing most of the talking. Strange though, but yeah, no, they had ribbons like yours in their hands and wrists. I mean, to be perfectly honest, you wore it better. Just gonna spouse that one out. But yeah, and then it was weird. Like I was talking to him, then all of a sudden I wasn't talking to him no more. They just like vanished or something.
Cole lights a cigarette, and it's clear that she's listening very closely.
And Bro would just, I mean, did they say anything to you about me?
Well, I mean, I just asked them if they wanted to go and see you, and they said if they wanted to go and see you, they would. Also, something about wanting to kill you later. Don't know what that was about. No, I'm only joking. But no, just I don't know. Got a weird vibe off them. Like just like they were just staring at you from far off.
And when you say or when he says just like they wanted to kill you, there was like genuine fear in her eyes, and then yeah, I don't know. I meet a lot of people on the roads. Some of them really like to maybe someone else from another church or temple or something.
They were wearing your ribbons. That's what you said, right, Vale?
Yeah, they were wearing her ribbons and tied up just like that, and they were wearing your same vestments. Yeah. That before Cole here decided to give you an unintended makeover.
And Cole breathes out some smoke. She dips some ash off the side of the boat, and she looks to you, Brill, and she takes another long drag. Why are your people looking for you?
I told you already, I don't know who they are. Do you think I know every person in the temple ever? Elmater is a huge... I don't know.
She smiles. she smiles and takes another drag, and then she's going to hand you the cigarillo, bro. And she's going to say, you're going to cough, but take a hit of this before you say anything else.
And hearing that, Ubo would actually kind of walk over. Just at this point, he was just watching the fish, but hearing Brill get all loud, he would take a few steps closer, just trying to see what was going on.
No, I don't want any of this. Thank you, but
there was a tiefling there. I'm not going to press you hard, Brill. All right, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. But there's a tiefling there. I'm interested, and I'll leave it at that.
It was weird though. It was a different color, not one that I normally see. I mean, I've seen red tieflings, and I've even seen a couple of black tieflings, and I've even seen a blue tiefling or two. But this one was lavender, or like purple or something, right? But like a light purple. That's lavender, isn't it? Not too keen on me colors, but anyway, yeah, but he had horns and a tail, and
Did they know Brill?
When I asked them if they wanted to see her, they said if they wanted to see her, they would. So, Brill, they know you. Is there something we need to, help you with? Or, just if you're in trouble, blink once for yes and twice for no.
At this point, like, her face is just like this, like, red color, and she doesn't even like crack a smile, and she just, like I said, I don't know.
Something smacks against the front of the boat. Something else smacks against the front of the boat. It's not heavy. It's just got a kind of hollow sound as it pings off the front of the boat. Not unlike when sticks or parts of logs or something have hit the front of the boat. But it happens again.
Well, I'll go in and have a look, or I'll just look out and... What's that then?
It's probably just the fish.
Yeah, well, why don't you have a look then?
I would actually even probably kind of lean over just to see if I could see it closer off the bow.
So as you look off the bow, first you see floating, as you start to kind of look around, you see floating on either side of the canoe, wooden masks painted. All of them seem to resemble seem to almost have like ant-like features. But you would all recognize them immediately, having faced the Batiri goblins and their Batiri battle stacks. These are Batiri battle masks, wooden battle masks. And at first you see 1, 2, 4, a half dozen, a dozen. And as you look further up over the bow of the boat, you see a couple dozen of these Batiri battle masks floating across the surface of the river, bouncing off the hull of the ship and kind of to either side, drifting off behind. There's a few that are caught in the reeds and in the shallows and along the bank. After just a few moments is when you see the first goblin floating face down in the river.
Would any of them hit the bow, Jake?
I think the first couple are kind of off to the side. The river's probably about 20 feet wide at this point, and one of them kind of the first couple kind of go off to the side, out of reach.
I'm going to use my Yula, and I'm going to the Chult spear I bought. I'm going to pull it from my pocket. I'm going to use it to fish these masks out of the water.
Okay.
And I actually want to grab one of the goblins and see if I can pull them up on the thing and see what condition they're in.
So yeah, I mean, at this point, a half a dozen and then a dozen goblin bodies are starting to float by. And the ones that you don't catch, all of a sudden there's a churning in the water behind you. The swarm of quippers quickly leave the stern of the boat and begin feasting on the bodies floating in the river. You're able to grab hold of one, kind of pull it up by the hair. It's gray-skinned, the eyes kind of milky white. It's been dead for at least a day. So what are you going to do with this goblin you're holding, Ubo? This dead goblin.
I'm sorry. Did you say it was obvious how he died, or just that he was dead?
Right now it's just you see that he's dead.
Yeah, I'm going to pull him up on the boat. I want to pull him up.
Dragon bait did this, Ubo.
Okay. Well, let's see. And I would just grab him as quickly as I could and just toss him on the deck and see if I could identify an injury, or anybody here could, or whatever.
It's pretty clear. You can see from this one that there's slash marks across the chest and abdomen.
Okay.
Sindra told me that Dragon Bait got free slaughtered the goblins that had captured him, and escaped off to go find artists. So, should have told you that sooner, but it looks like this is a bit of his handiwork.
What else did you learn from her?
She takes a drag from her cigarette and she looks at you and she says, well, chances are by the time we get back, like I told you, she'll be dead. I learned that very little about this interim. I learned a little more about some other things that I can't mention right now. Forgive my absence. I'll tell you later. Promises. And I also learned that dragon bait, as I just told you, is free.
So with that, I would grab the goblin. I would just hold him up so he's dangling a few feet off the ground. I was like, so we don't need him?
Don't need it.
And I would toss him back in the water.
And before the body even fully hits the water, the quippers are jumping up and grabbing at it. In front of you, all around the boat, it just becomes a churning mass of quippers. They actually stop moving with you as the goblin bodies are drifting past the boat. And it's just turned into a quipper feeding frenzy.
And Cole collects, she continues collecting the mask. But how many we should be getting from this, Jake?
Well, each mask is pretty good sized, like a full size mask. You're only going to be able to get so many before you start to overwhelm the boat.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I
how
only
many would you get?
I get like 3, 4. I get 5 at most. 5
Okay.
at most.
Yeah, you can do that easily because you've seen at least a couple dozen floating by.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you pick one up and it's split, it's cracked, it's half of a mask.
Mm-hmm.
But you're able to pull 5 intact masks out.
And she would use some of her alchemist tools to sanitize the masks since they were in the water, and then she would store them in the bag of holding.
So it's getting to be later in the afternoon. The goblins, there was like this huge mass of them that seemed to come by, like I said, a couple dozen. And then it just turns into a trickle of a goblin here, goblin there. Everybody give me perception. I will roll for Salida.
I'm going to use one of my luck points on this.
Okay.
Okay, I'll use a second one. Okay, that's better. That's an 18.
Vale?
9.
Salida was just watching you pick up the masks, not really saying much, and then she moved toward the bow. And then she turns and kind of does that thing where she actually only turns part way, but keeps her eyes ahead and reaches back until she finds Ubo. But Ubo, you've already seen what she's seen. Just a little ways up a river on what would be the right bank from where you are. There's half a dozen Batiri goblins. They're standing in a small group. And then they throw a goblin body into the river. And then they pick up another one and they throw it into the river. And then another one. And then they toss the 3 masks into the river. And at this point, you are now just about, we'll say, a couple 100 feet away.
Do they see the boat, Jake?
They haven't given any indication at this point that they've seen the boat.
I would just kind of turn everybody to, what do we do here? Just kind of, we don't have a place to go. We're in the river, so.
They're doing a funeral practice, says Cole, as she lifts the thunder cannon and pulls back the hammer, and she says, we move the bolt so that way it's on that side of the river. We give them space and we let them bury their dead.
Okay.
If they attack, well, we do what we usually do, I suppose. And when she says that, she would take out the mask and she would hand one to each person. And then she would put the mask on herself, fastening it to the back of her head.
Okay.
And she says to the rest of you, put them on. They're superstitious people. Maybe they'll think that we're some kind of god or spirit or some such.
Not a bad idea. All right.
Pull your cloaks tight so I don't see any skin.
I'll do the same thing.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my gosh. I need all 5 of you
Lordy.
to make Constitution saving throws.
Oh. I failed an 8. Or a 10 it would be. Drake isn't here.
Salida fails hers. What? Oh, that might blow our overlay.
Is this a disease thing?
No, he put up a thing.
Nope.
Jake. He put up a.
Oh, okay. I wondered why you guys didn't shift.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you say? Okay. I'll be back in a minute. All right, so what'd you guys get?
10.
I got a 21.
What'd you get, Megan? 9?
Mm.
And then I didn't see that he put his in yet. So as you're observing that you're passing out these masks and everybody's kind of taking the masks, Cole, as you hand a mask to Salida, you actually see what looks like almost like parrot feathers just suddenly appear on Salida's neck as she goes, Drake, I need a Constitution saving throw for Ubo. And Cole goes,
12.
I don't know what that was. The Berlin. And she kind of collapses into you, Cole, as you feel something sting you in the back of the neck.
Cole tries to scream out that we're under attack before she falls under.
All that comes out is slurred words.
I was just like, Berlinia,
you feel a sting in your neck. Ubo, in your cheek. Something like feels like a wasp sting in your cheek. And as you see this happen, Vale, you actually see, like, right between your eyes, there's just suddenly, you feel that sharp pain of something just go, and you see the bright blue, red, and green of these feathers as a poison dart strikes you in the forehead and kind of sticks in the bone of your skull, and you completely, it stops the poison from getting into you as the rest of your party falls unconscious.
I would probably go cross-eyed for a moment, just kind of.
Right.
I'm just kind of missing it, right? Because you're trying to look at it, and then finally, aha! What was this? Hey, did anyone? Oh.
And then you hear that sound of all around you, the sound of bowstrings being drawn taut. As you see several Batiri goblins drawing bows and arrows on you. A couple of them are swinging vine ropes and reach out with grapple hooks. They miss at first, and then 2 and 3 grapples grab onto the edge of your boat as they begin pulling the boat with only you conscious toward the shore where they were throwing the goblins in the water.
All right. My only chance is to sacrifice the rest of the party so that I may live. Become king of
Wait a
the
second.
goblins.
There's other ways around this.
14 sessions he's been planning this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I will become king in the north of Chult.
Tune in next week for the Vale Chronicles.
That's right. I will grab not my rapier, but I will grab my short sword, and I'm going to begin hacking at the grapples or at the ropes, and then I'm going to try and row away as quickly as possible. And the first person who I see, which I don't know who's that going to be. The first person that's nearest to me would be who?
Roll a D4, my man, or a D6 and divided by 2, I guess.
Fuck it, D4. Okay, so that's 1. So I would say that's a person immediately beside me, and that's cool. So I just reach down, and I'm gonna lay on hands and try and wake him up.
Which I think you just expend the 5, and that cures a condition, right? I need another con save, Vale.
All right. That would be a 12. Oh, wait. Yes, that would be a 12.
Can I use my lucky point on Vale?
You're conscious, just coming conscious as he's getting hit with one of these darts again. So, I don't know, what would that look like?
As she wakes up, because she was already in fight or flight mode and then the poison took her out, she opens her eyes and she's staring dead at Vale, and she sees one of these darts hit him in the neck. As it does so, she basically springs up and she pulls him down at the same time and bites his neck and pretty much sucks out a bit of the poison and spits it back out. And because of Tamor, her goddess of luck, and because of the lucky point mechanically, it's just in time basically to give him a chance to re-roll the points.
Okay.
I consented to nothing. That's fine.
So as Cole is attempting to give you a hickey, re-roll your con save.
All right.
Don't fuck this up, Vale.
You know what? That is a lot better. However, I don't know if it's enough. It would be 19.
It is enough.
Okay.
The goblins are still trying to throw more. You've hacked away the 3 that were grabbing. They're still trying to throw more grapples on you.
And as she's holding Vale down in the boat, she says to him, "You cut the ropes. I'm going to focus fire on the trees where the goblins are. Do you understand?"
Yeah. All right, let's do this.
She pulls up her hood. It's not the hood, sorry, the jacket and the cloak. So she's protecting her neck, and she's wearing the mask, trying to protect what skin she can. And she quickly draws the thunder cannon, Jake, and she's going to open fire on the goblins. Or in the general direction.
As you rise up, I want you to make a perception check.
All right. That's going to be a 13.
You catch a glimpse of, as you are rising up, kind of doing that thing where you kind of quick peek over just to get before taking a shot. You see, let's see, it's hidden behind there. Let me move it up here. You see a figure, a goblin that's wearing like a red robe, carrying a staff that has a weird crown of vines on its head that stands out amongst all the others. And you see something metallic glinting around its neck, a medallion of sorts. And that's all you're able to see in that quick glance.
Gotcha. Once she sees this, she would just basically fire away like she does everything else, and then she would fire a bullet and then duck back down, still trying to cover herself.
So are you just trying? Are you shooting like a warning shot, or are you targeting the goblins?
I'm targeting the goblins.
All right, roll a hit. Roll an attack.
All right. Okay, that's probably going to miss because it's only an 11.
Let me tell you.
And then she's having Vale basically wake people up and cut the ropes.
Yeah, that misses. As it explodes into the riverbank, you hear some of the goblins yelling, and I'm going to roll 3 attempts as they are.
Come on, cover.
Trying to. They're not trying to hit you, as far as you can tell. They're still trying to grapple the boat. That one's a jack. That is a 21. So one of the grapples lands on the boat. The other 2 clatter off the side. You do hear a couple, like, talk of poison arrows hitting into the mask that you wear, and hitting into the edge of the boat. So far, they've only tried to grapple your boat and hit you with poison darts. So what are you doing now? Since it's only you two that are awake.
Well, I'm going to turn around and wake up the next individual, who's going to be... The next person beside me is going to be Brill. So I'm just going to go ahead and just... Come on, Brill. Come on. Now would be a good time to wake you up, huh? Please?
Brill will just sit up with like a gasp of air and just look around quickly.
Bull grabs her by her hair and pulls her back down below the lip of the boat. Don't peek up. Poison arrows knock you the fuck out. Do you understand?
Brill would just nod, careful to keep her mouth closed.
Mask on, cloak around your neck. It's what they're aiming for.
What? Can we even roll?
Shut the fuck. Cut the goddamn rope, Vale.
I'm cutting.
And then when that
happens, more
happens, and as he's cutting the rope, she leans up at the same time so don't fire at him, and she fires another shot, having just reloaded the thunder cannon.
Okay, go ahead and make the attack.
That's a lot better than 21 to hit, man. 4. That's going to be 5, 4, 11 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3. That's going to be 14 points of damage.
You blow the head off one of the goblins.
Dope. Sick. And then she goes back below cover and starts reloading.
All right. And is anybody rowing? Or are you just trying to cut the ropes and...
trying to cut the ropes and hopefully the current, if there is one, because I'm not sure if we're going upstream or downstream.
You've been moving upriver, which means you're actually floating back the way you came.
If that's the case, then Cole would tell Brill to start rowing, but keep a low profile as she's doing so with the mask and the cloak and all.
Yeah, Brilinya would like kind of put her kind of clothes up so that they kind of cover her neck, and she's still wearing that mask. So, and then she would start rowing.
Okay, so you start rowing. It's difficult laying low and trying to move the boat yourself. Give me a strength check.
I got a 1.
Nice.
I have -2 to strength, so maybe.
So at first, when you first grab the oars, you managed a couple paddles, and the boat seems to just kind of stay stationary. And then you feel the boat, Vale and Cole, you feel the boat drifting downstream. As Brill, what you're doing is you're kind of laying low, and you're doing the rowing motion, but the oars are never actually dipping into the water.
Yeah, I think that she would quickly see that this is not working, and Cole, Vale, this isn't working. I think we need to switch out.
Okay, fuck it. Vale, you row. Listen, you blast fire, whatever you can do, but make sure those ropes do not stay on the boat.
Got it. And she'd
All
go
right.
up and she'd try to, just like flame the ropes to try and get them to snap, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's no more ropes that are attached. You're able to burn, cut, or lift off the ropes. Vale, you're rowing now?
Well, just before I do, is it possible for me to wake up Ubo?
I mean, you're basically clambering across unconscious bodies, so yeah.
All right, I'm going to expend another 10 to wake up both Salida and Ubo. But if they try to move, I'm going to keep them down and say, stay down. We're going to need all your help to row out of here. Just grab an oar, stay down, and let's row the hell out of here.
And Cole would fill them in, much like she did Brill, which is basically mask, cloak, and goblins.
Does anybody here speak Goblin? Yeah, so you basically just hear all of this. And you hear all around you, but you hear one voice above the others is this, presumably this one figure. And then is anybody rowing now? Are you guys...
Wait, because I just got up. I haven't. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. So when he's doing that, how wide is this boat like that we're in right now, where we're rowing? Is it just a canoe with a rowboat? How big is it right now?
In the current configuration, it's less than 3 feet wide, probably. Maybe 4 feet. I don't know.
And how big is my shell?
I don't know. You tell me.
I would say it's probably about 4 feet tall and probably about 3 feet wide. So I probably encompass this entire thing. I want to sit at the bow of this thing. And I want to use my turtle defense and tuck my head into my shell and my arms into the shell. So my AC goes to 22, and I'm going to give them half cover. If they can keep the boat angled between the goblins and them, Ubo is going to...
Would this be marked as a holy day where Drake uses one of his features from his character? Who thought it would finally happen?
So, the boat... Where the hell did it go? Oh, here it is. It's 10 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 2 feet deep.
Okay, then I would literally basically put my butt in there like a tombstone and just nudge it up to the front and literally bring everything in, arms, legs, head. So it's just the shell, and my AC will be 22. Depending on the angle that they keep, I should be able to give them half cover on everything.
And almost immediately you feel this kind of tuck, 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 as some of these poison arrows are hitting your shell, bouncing off. Now, who's rowing?
I imagine Vale and Salida are rowing, while basically I give cover fire, and while Brill handles any ropes, any grappling hooks they throw at us.
As you are starting to row away, no more grapple hooks come. You hear in broken common, as the boat regains, so you kind of draw up even with them, and then you start to overtake that position. You hear in common, broken common, "Too scared to take us on, after killed all our people. Now you run."
Lucky. The sand in front of whatever goblin is speaking explodes as a bullet from the thunder cannon hits it. Cold and won't high enough to actually hit them, but she just basically blows the beach up with another thunderous echo.
You go! Never come back! You destroy Batiri and Biting Tribe!
We didn't kill your people! You daft, half-sized bastard!
No more arrows, or no more darts, no more grapples, as you successfully row your way up the stream. Ah, dang it, I was trying not to say that. I was specifically trying not to say that you row your boat up the stream.
Is that the name of this session now? Is row your boat up the stream or up the creek without a paddle?
Oh my gosh, I should have called this session Row, Row, Row Your Boat. I'm changing the name.
Dope.
I'm going to put an overlay in the edited version that covers this one that says Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
I like
Dang
it.
I have no idea
You
where
need a
my
drink.
big map went.
Nice.
Sorry, and after hearing a few minutes of just silence, no more thunk, 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 and just the rowing, you would hear, "Can I come out? Can I
You're good,
come
love.
out?"
You're good, love. And she like taps the shell once with her thunder cannon.
So like literally, you would see like
Timor, Bashaba, I don't know who to pray to after that. These goblins. Are there more tribes, Salida?
The Batiri goblins all over the jungles. This
Fucking great.
This tribe, this was unusual behavior. I have never seen so many goblins massacred like this.
Well, even Dragon Bait likes to smell like lemon and bread when he's mad. They're probably used to it by now, having seen what he did to them.
You think that Dragon Baits could have killed that many of them?
And she looks at him. She looks at Salida squarely, and she kind of just like hoists up the thunder cannon and slides into her pocket. And she says, "Yeah, I do."
Interesting. And then she kind of shrugs and goes back to helping with the rowing. And you're able to carry on for another few hours and make your way up the river to your next camping location, which, as it happens, as you come around the bend in a river, you see give me 1 second.
A waterfall with a dragon on top.
Well,
Or a dragon with a waterfall on top of it.
Yeah, that's what we're really looking for here.
yes,
That's
a dragon with a waterfall on top.
A dragon fall with a water. on
it's so
top.
big, it's drooling, and it is looking like a waterfall. That
you
is
could make that happen, man. You could make that happen. Come on.
I don't think my thunder cannon is a big enough to deal with something like that. But we can try. I'm up for anything.
No, I'm up for running. Actually, I'm up for running back to the mainland. You know,
We're on the mainland. Thank you very much. We're not on an island. We're in Chult. Shit.
pretty sure Chult is an island.
Yeah. Well,
Nope, it's
like
a peninsula.
Yeah.
It is a peninsula. As you come around a bend, you notice on the southern bank. I'm trying to resize this without covering you guys. You did not do the encounter I thought for sure you were going to do.
Breaking the railroad. I'm just joking.
No. So you see this. Well, it stands out because you see sitting on the hillside. First, you see what looks like an encampment, though you see no activity. But where this encampment is, on these little groupings of hills, you see a giant statue of a man with an alligator on its back.
Cole's eyes go wide and she whispers, "I know this place." I know this place.
Well,
And she reaches into her pocket and she starts fumbling with something. And then she pulls out that map that we discussed before, Jake. Holy shit. Well, I was not getting this mixed up. And she
Been doing that for years, bro.
She slaps it on the bottom of the boat. And what you see is an old hand-sketched map that looks just like this man with a turtle dragon thing on his back. And she says, got this from my mentor before I came here. Said he found it in an old book. Ain't that something?
You can see as your canoe draws up closer that the camp is abandoned. You see the remnants of tents, tattered and frayed. You see that there's wreckage strewn about. There is just at the riverside, there's a couple of there's a small dock and a couple of canoes tied up. And the statue is actually only about 50 feet from where the docks are. The camp is made or was made right at the base of this statue.
Can I make a check to see if I see any like signs of like blood or just any sort of like ripped apart, eaten, gnawed, stabbed, burnt. Basically every single way there is to kill a humanoid creature, any evidence of that whatsoever.
Yeah, go ahead and make an investigation.
Oh boy, did I pick the wrong stat for that.
That's what I'm good in, but we're not there yet.
That would be an 8.
Nice.
Looks pretty clear from here.
Cole looks at you 3, 4 including Saloon, and she says, let's go dock. I want to check it out. Part of the reason I came to Chult, after all, was to go check out that statue and what's inside. If what this map says is true.
And Salida would look at this place and
run away. Make mouth rapping noises.
She actually gives no indication that she knows what this place is.
Dope.
She just kind of looks around curiously at it. She does say that it is late enough in the day that this may be our best opportunity for shelter. We have some time before darkness, if you would like to make sure it is safe.
Cole lowers the mask, it's hanging in front of her chest. And she nods and she looks at the others. She says, Salida and one of you guys should probably stay here, secure the boat. And then we go and we just check out the camp. And then either tonight or tomorrow, we check out the big guy. And she indicates the statue with a thunder cannon.
Well, I say if it's not nailed down, we're going to take it. I mean, look at this place. Obviously, whoever was here is either dead or in the jungle and dead, or probably the bottom of the river in some quipper's belly.
And dead.
Dead. Yeah. So, I mean, they left things lying around.
Cole gives you a really oddly affectionate smile. And then she looks at you, Brill, and she says, you probably want to come too. Put some souls to rest. That's your thing, yeah?
Who did you say again showed you this?
Showed me this? My mentor, he had a map of it. Well, he found a map of the statue, not of the camp. The camp's clearly not on the piece of paper.
Yeah, sure.
And Cole loads in a bullet, and she basically helps everyone roll the boat to the docks.
And as you're rowing up, you were looking at it kind of sidelong as you were pulling up, and as you go up to the dock, you're kind of looking at this thing head on, and Salida's been staring. And she goes, I don't know what this place is, but I think I know what this is. I think I know what this might be a depiction of.
And that is?
Well, it's from a local, like a legend, a story that mommies tell their children, to get them to go to sleep. Let me see if I can remember. And she thinks for a minute, and she says, yes. And she begins to kind of like almost wistfully recite from memory a story that's been told her many times. In the early days of the world, man stood by the banks of a river, frightened. Crocodile raised his head from the water and asked, What troubles you, cousin man? Man said, I must cross this river, but I fear to enter the water alone, because it teems with your brethren. Crocodile replied, It's true, you would not be safe, but I will carry you across the river safely on my back, if you promise to return the favor. Man agreed, and Crocodile bore him safely across the water. When they reached a far bank, man asked, How can I repay you? Crocodile replied, I wish to see the realm of humans, but I fear to go there alone, because it teems with your brethren. You must carry me on your back across your realm. Man had been tricked, but a promise is a promise, so he carried Crocodile safely on his back across the entire realm of humans, a journey that lasted many years. He also swore in his anger that never again would men and crocodiles be friends, and so it has remained to this day. This is the tale of the man and the crocodile.
Cole is smiling broadly like she's a child when she hears this. She's absolutely enthralled hearing this local legend. And she just stammers out, That's beautiful, Salida. Thank you for telling me that. And with that, she would step out of the boat and onto the docks.
All right, so you said Salida and who is staying with the boat?
I think Ubo should stay unless Ubo doesn't want to stay. He can make the decision not to stay if he wants to, but you're muted again, buddy.
It's not a chance in hell I'm staying with the boat.
I'm pretty sure. I was going to say, I think I read his lips. I'm not staying with the damn boat.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
I can stay with the boat. It's
All
fine.
right.
Well,
I'll
leave
stay
Salida
with the
with the boat.
Well, yeah. So yeah, but there should be more than like just one person, because one person can be overpowered and then we won't know. So I'll stay with the boat. You guys go and loot some stuff. Do what you got to do. Don't die. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So Vale and Salida are staying with the boat to secure it.
So Cole basically has one hand on a thunder cannon, another hand in her pocket ready to pull out some tomfoolery if needed. And she's actually going to move away from both Brill and Ubo and kind of strike out on her own in the camp as she's investigating around.
North or south?
North.
Okay. So you kind of move towards where there's about, maybe you can see there's about 7 or 8 tents intact, several that are reduced to just moldy tatters. All of the tents, even the ones that seem like they're mostly intact, you can see that they've been shredded open, slash marks from presumably wild animals. That's the first thing you see. Ubo and Brilinya to the south, the first thing you see is this kind of big round, almost like a command tent. Bigger than the others. Would you go into the tent or would you just kind of look around the outside of it?
I would look down at Brill. I'd say, think it's best we go with her or check this out ourselves. What do you think?
She looks pretty, and I think Brilinya would look at Cole and probably say that Cole is just like giddy with excitement and just like running from place going from place to place and looking around. I'm sure she'll tell us if she needs help. And
Okay. Well, this is the biggest one. Let's check it out.
yeah, and I think Bro would go and just like see if she can just like kind of like peek in a little bit to this tent.
Ubo would you would see him kind of put his hand out to kind of push you back to go first, and then but about halfway through that motion of putting his hand out, he would kind of pull back and he would look towards the boat. I don't know if we're too far away from Vale to see him, but he would, if Vale could see him, he would see him just pull it back and go, okay, just.
Brilinya, roll a d6 as you're looking in the tent.
Okay, that's a 2.
The tent is empty.
Completely, there's nothing.
You can see some daylight through slash marks in the side. It smells old. It smells like the jungle. There's one more of these command tents slightly to the south, a few other of the rectangular soldier tents, and then there's this kind of almost burned out structure just up a small rise behind the tents.
Should we look at this? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say it's actually not showing up on the map here.
Should we look at the slash marks that are kind of on the side of this tent?
They are in groups of 3 or 4. They look like large claw marks in parallel.
She would turn to Ubo and just shake her head, and there's nothing in the tent, but there's those scratch marks.
How big are we talking, Jake? Like, how far are those claws apart? Like, does it look like a big hand, like a dinosaur-sized hand, or like a humanoid?
Each slash mark is about 6 inches apart. So the whole slash on the side of the tent would be like 2 feet wide.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, not like, I mean, we're not talking like a cougar came up. We're talking like something big ripped into this tent.
And responding to Brill, Ubo would say, whatever made these, and I would point towards the slashes. And he would take his, like 3 of his fingers and kind of put them next to the slashes and realize that this thing's, whatever did this was probably 3 or 4 the size, 3 or 4 times the size of my hand. Whatever did this was 3 or 4 of me. That is something that's very dangerous. And we probably shouldn't be here. We don't know if it's still here. At the very least, we should all be together.
We swing over to Cole again, wandering amongst the ruined soldier tents. Just to the east of these tents, there is a kind of crudely constructed animal pen. You can see it just north of the shrine there and just east of the tents. It's about 20 feet, 15 feet across, 20 feet deep. It's made of that where they've taken like the small sapling trees and kind of woven them in and out of each other. And it's got that look of dried, trampled earth. Like it almost looks like a dried up pig pen. Do you go over toward that any closer to look closer or to inspect it?
100% will.
Okay. As you get up on there, you actually see a small creature kind of bumping up against the edges of the pen, kind of running around in there and squawking a little bit. It doesn't seem to be able to get out of there. Where the heck is it?
What's it look like?
That's what I was trying to find. I thought they were in the... Oh, maybe it's in... Hold on.
I hope this is my my pet gold wormling I've been looking for.
I think you pronounced purple worm wrong.
Oh well, no, I'll take a pet purple worm too. That's just as effective.
That's very peculiar.
Cole eats some gummy
Where the
bears,
heck
much
are
like the
they?
Master Marquise does.
Oh, you know what? They're a beast. That's why. I'm trying to remember what they look like, so I can describe it. I think I'm confusing it with something else, so I want to make sure. Oh yeah, okay. So what you see is a kind of a mid-sized bird, flightless bird, and it has this massive beak that curves widely, but is very narrow, and the beak very much resembles an axe. Hence their common name of axebeak.
She sees the axe beak and she smiles to herself. It looks like a baby one, I imagine.
Yeah, it's like a fledgling.
All right. And she reaches into her pocket and she takes out this small green vial. And I imagine like this is like a show, like a flashback to where that celestial spirit thing took one of my bullets and replaced it with this vial. It's that same vial. And she pops the cork, downs it real quick, and she's casting animal friendship on this thing. Which basically has to make a wisdom saving throw, or it's charmed for the duration. So it needs to make a 14 or higher.
Well, it's a wisdom.
Yep.
That is a natural 1.
Dope. Which means it is now charmed by me. And so after I drink it, I look at it and I start speaking to him, cooing to him, treating it like I would like a baby, right? Then I open up the fence and I go to one knee and I kind of like pat my knee for it to come closer to me.
It does so hesitantly at first. It's less. I guess it's less hesitant and more stupid. It kind of meanders. It stops banging up against the sides of the fence. It kind of meanders off to one side, and then off to another. Circles towards you, and then quickly darts away, and then it comes up, right up near you.
You're cute, aren't you? She would say, and she kind of scratches it like on its neck area, and then she puts down like her hand, puts like to jump on her hand and run up to her shoulder. Hopefully, that'd be cool. That's what she wants to happen.
Give me animal handling with advantage.
Dope. Ooh. All right, that's going to be a 16.
It kind of looks at you, and this thing is probably the size of a large peacock, to give you some perspective. And it kind of looks at your hand where you've lowered it down, and it just gives just a leap, and all of a sudden it's on your shoulders, like behind your neck, like the upper part of your back. And it's not super heavy, but it's heavier than you expected. I mean, it's not enough to topple you or anything like that, but I mean, it's kind of like having a mid-sized dog.
Yeah.
Suddenly stand on your back.
She stands up with some effort, but she's very happy with it, so she kind of scratches it again, takes a piece of dried meat and feeds it to it. She thinks about naming it, but she goes against that for a second, and then she looks at the giant ruins, and she begins walking over to them.
Okay. Vale, you and Salida get the folding boat kind of up to shore, and are you going to just leave it there? Or are you going to fold it up into its storage configuration since it's a magical boat?
I don't know if I'd be ready. I don't think I'd fold it up just yet. I'd probably just in case, like a horde of something comes right out of the jungle and tries to eat us. Maybe we should keep this thing unfolded to be on the safe side,
This is probably a good idea to be ready for anything.
Law of Ravagers. I mean, I have to have a good idea at least once a session. How you doing, Salida? I mean, how are things? Like, how you feeling? I know this is probably not exactly what you're normally accustomed to.
Every day passes, I make another 5 gold. The last 4 days has probably been the easiest 20 gold I've made with you lot.
Can I ask you a question? Would you tell me honest? Would you tell me true?
Depends on the question, but I have no reason to lie to you.
Have you ever guided a worse party than us? I mean, just tell me. I've got to know. It's for me ego. Like, I just need this. Have there been worse parties than us? Please tell me yes.
I would say one party that was worse.
All
than
right. You know what? When they get back, I'm going to be proud to say that we're not the worst. All right. So what happened to them?
So, do you think they're finding anything out there? As she turns to kind of look at where, she moves just a couple steps away. It's odd that they've split up.
Nah, it's fine. I mean, they're just going to wander around, have a look at a few things. I'm sure we're going to either hear a gunshot, a scream, or nothing.
And, I mean, at most, each group is only about 50 feet away from you guys. Maybe 60. We'll swing down to Brilinya and Ubo. You checked out the first tent of the big tents. You've got the other big tent, and then there's that kind of ruined building that looks like it's burned out up atop the hill. And actually, Brilinya, give me a perception at advantage.
That's a 21.
You actually recognize the just the general structure of this building. That it is not uncommon, particularly for soldiers when they set up encampments, to set up shrines or temples. Kind of a field expedient temple. And this looks to be something similar.
Okay. And she would relay that information to Ubo, kind of pointing it out.
Would you go up the hill to it, or would you keep your distance?
You muted your.
Yep. At this point, I would just, okay, so which do you think we should check out? It doesn't matter to me. I think we should go back to the boat and get everyone. But if you think it's safe to check it out, we can go check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if we should get as far away from everyone, especially with those slash marks.
You have clear line of sight to the boat and to Cole.
Okay.
Especially as you would be moving up a hill, you'd actually be able to see over top. I mean, everything's within 100 feet in this encampment.
Okay, all right. So then, in that case, she would just say, well, if anything bad happens, we can just run away.
Okay, let's go. See what we can find, and then let's get back to the boat after this. I don't want to leave Vale there by himself.
Yeah. Brother Mateus. That was the tiefling's name. The tiefling that Vale was talking about. His name is Brother Mateus.
And hearing this, Ubo would kind of turn. Was he a friend?
I don't know about friend. He was the head of my order. We called ourselves the Weeping Friars.
Any idea why he'd be here?
probably hunting me down to take me back to the temple.
I'm going to assume that you don't want to go. You're growing fond of this place, are you?
Maybe not Chult, but people aren't so bad. Some of them.
Well, if he does find you, and if you don't want to go, you know that he'll have to go through all of us to get to you.
That's what I'm worried about. I couldn't tell Vale or Cole. They see me. But you left. You know.
Yeah, I left. And I lied. And I'm trying to do better now. Even if I fail every day, I'm still going to try.
I guess that's the difference between you and me. I'm still trying to lie.
Well, I'm a little bit older. Maybe this guy isn't coming to take you back. Maybe he's coming for another reason. Maybe he's concerned. Do you know for a fact? Do you really know?
I mean, she just like takes a deep breath. She's like, I poisoned the person who was supposed to go. Supposed to be here on this mission. I was not supposed to be here.
Dude, Ubo would kind of straighten up with that and go, poisoned? Like made them sick, poisoned, or?
You know, one of my favorite places, I could never leave the compound of the temple. I wasn't ever allowed. But they had this garden. And they had the most beautiful flowers. Most beautiful plants there. Some of them had many different properties.
Yeah.
And the other people in my temple, the others like me, they never really enjoyed it as much as I did.
And Ubo, listen, you're a little bit, I know you're a little bit smaller, but Ubo would actually go down to one knee in front of you, and he's probably only about 6 inches shorter than you, even on one knee. And he would go, if this man is looking for you, and you've done a terrible thing, you will be held accountable for it by the people that you hurt. Just as I will, just as Cole will, just as Vale will. But you will not be held accountable today. Today we have a mission. Today we have things to do, things to focus on. And one day it may come that you are held accountable. But today you don't have to worry about it. Because one day I'm going to have to be accountable too. But if you dwell on it, it'll take you down a path that you'll never come back from. I was lucky enough to have you guys putting up with me.
She just kind of just nods after a while. All right.
And he says, hey, you're worried about how Vale and Cole or what they think of you. If you're worried about doing the right thing, do the right thing with them. Because when that day comes, you will need them as well.
Let's go take out this shrine. Check it out. Yeah.
So I imagine this conversation taking place as you're kind of trudging up slowly up this slight hill to where the shrine sits at the top. You kind of pause for a few minutes to finish your conversation. And that's where you can see that this is just the burned out husk of what was a partially built shrine. And you see kind of partially burnt but damaged stockpile of building supplies. It looks like whatever happened that set this fire, they were in the process of constructing something. And just as this kind of conversation finishes up and you look up Brilinya, you see hanging from a nail nearby, still gleaming despite the fire, despite anything, you see a holy symbol, a silver holy symbol of the god Torm hanging. Would you leave it? Would you take it?
Brilinya would, I think, like recognize that it's there, but she would not take it. She would not remove any holy symbols or anything like that.
And Brilinya, Megan, I want you to take a point of inspiration for that dark revelation. As we flip over to Gunslinger Cole and her bird companion, you were heading toward the kind of back toward the shrine.
So basically, she's walking up, not towards the shrine, but towards the statue itself.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
The only other thing of note is just beyond the animal pen is what looks like a couple of latrine pits. And then there's the statue itself.
She leaves latrine pits, and as she's walking to the statue, she's talking to the bird, and what she's saying is, what the others just don't understand is the fact that I'm not just some asshole tiefling with a gun. I'm a student, I'm a scholar, 77 gentlewoman. They don't really say that after the first time of talking to me, but some do say it. But scholar, student, archaeologist is the big one. Now, I know you're a bird. You don't understand what an archaeologist is. That's okay. But the Institute, they do. That's what I was trained as, right? That and a bit of an artificer here and there, which I kind of, took two more. But I digress. And when she gets to the stairs of the statue, she's still talking. She snaps her fingers so the bird can jump off. And she takes out another cigarette on a match, and she lights it, and she says to it, but the thing is that I came here to learn, right? Not to save lives, so that's a nice plus. Not to make friends, another plus. Not to find my long-lost sister I didn't even know I had. Not sure if that's a plus or a minus shit. Still kind of debating the specifics on that one. But particulars aside, I came here to learn. And this, and she points to the statue with the cigarette, is what I came to learn about. Now, again, you're a bird. You have no idea what I'm talking about. You just want the piece of meat I keep throwing to you every few minutes so you can have something, to chow down on. But you're a better companion than most. Better than Toros, I guess. And she blows out some more smoke, and she takes one step, and she puts her foot onto the first step, and she's testing it.
And that's where we're going to end.
Dope.
I was gonna do something a little else, but you set up the perfect little ending for the session with that. So,
I promise I won't leave and screw up the whole setting. Sorry, Jake.
Dope.
Nobody told me last time.
I told Drake what he did last week when he left the session before I'd even signed off and screwed up the overlays.
Good times that day.
All around excellent RP. This was obviously a very much an RP session. You've seen something horrible going on with the ant-biting tribe of Batiri goblins, but perhaps they just got their justice they were due for what they did to you before. And you are now at the remains of Camp Righteous and at the statue of the House of Man and Crocodile, where Cole has made a bird friend.
What's
Vale,
its name, Cole? What's the bird's
I
name?
don't think she named it. I think she was going to and then hesitated.
So the spell lasts 24 hours. If the bird decides to stay with me after 24 hours, I will then name it.
Give me one more animal handling check right now.
Gotcha. All right, that fucking landed on the side. Okay, that's going to be an 11.
Sorry, with advantage. While you have the
with
spell
advantage.
on, I'm going to have you do it with advantage.
That's what I needed. Okay, that's going to be a 19 then.
Okay, yeah, the bird's just kind of chilling on the steps as you were talking to it, kind of cocking its axe beak head side to side, and maybe a couple of tung tung tung.
Everybody needs just somebody to talk to sometimes. For Colt, it's just axe beak hashling.
You better name it something with a cuss word.
Oh, bet. Okay.
Because that would be perfect.
And I absolutely will be changing the name of this session to Row, Row, Row Your Boat. I don't know why I didn't think of that before the session. So, this was about a 2-hour session, which is pretty typical for these. And this was kind of a nice intermediate RP heavy. We learned a little bit about Brilinya in this.
Goddamn Black Widow.
Black
Widow, yes.
So we'll see how whether Ubo can keep that information to himself, and
doubt it.
What is Cole gonna find in the House of the Man and Crocodile? You'll have to tune in next week to Chult of Personality, our Tomb of Annihilation D&D 5th edition weekly campaign happening right here on twitch.tv/mini-terrain-domain every Monday at 8:30 Eastern. You can also check out on this channel Guild Artisan Crafting streams happening right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Occasional video game streams, Mini-Terrain-Domain plays video games, and currently happening on Sunday nights, I am producing a Mastered by Marquise, The Savage Wastes of Kryphoth, The Last 7 Days. We just finished up they just finished up the third of 7 sessions.
I'm Marquise, by the way.
Yes. Gunslinger Cole is Marquise, and Brilinya, or rather Megan, is one of the co-creators of the Kryphoth setting. And this is all part of the playtest. So, as always, I want to thank each of my fantastic players here for always bringing their A game. Tune in next week, and let's see what kind of trouble they can get into. In the meantime, I've been Jake. This is Mini-Terrain-Domain. And